I never thought I'd be the guy who would end up in a situation like this. My name is Jake, and I was married to Lisa for 7 years. We had what I thought was a solid relationship. Sure, like any couple, we had our ups and downs, but we built our life together in a cozy little house in the suburbs of Dallas. I worked in IT, and Lisa was a marketing manager at a local firm. We both had busy lives, but we made it work. For the first few years, everything was great. We had shared friends, date nights, and even started talking about kids. But as time went on, I started to notice some changes in Lisa. At first, I attributed it to work stress. She started working late more frequently, claiming that she had deadlines to meet. I didn't think much of it at the time. After all, she was dedicated to her job. But then came the little things. Her phone became glued to her hand, her social media activity increased, and she was secretive about her messages. I remember the day it all fell apart. It started on a Wednesday when I decided to surprise her with dinner. I got home early and could sense something was off. Lisa was acting distant, her responses were clipped, and she seemed preoccupied. I brushed it off as stress, but the feeling in my gut grew stronger. A few days later, I was cleaning out our home office and stumbled upon her phone charging on the desk. By some stroke of luck, I noticed a notification pop up on the screen from a contact labeled Chris. The message read, "Can't wait to see you tonight, babe." My heart dropped. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but that didn't sit right with me. So that evening, I decided to dig a little deeper. I tried to access her phone, but Lisa had a passcode on it. At that moment, I felt a mix of anger and confusion. I wanted to confront her, but I also wanted proof. I took a gamble and decided to wait until she was asleep. Honestly, I felt like a total creep, but desperate times call for desperate measures. When Lisa finally drifted off, I used her fingerprint to unlock the phone. Thankfully, she had it set up that way. I could believe my eyes when I opened her messages. There was a trail of flirty exchanges between her and Chris, a cousin of mine. My blood ran cold. I read through message after message, filled with intimate details about their meetings and plans to sneak away for a weekend together. My heart shattered into a million pieces. I was filled with rage and disbelief. How could she do this to me? My mind raced as I tried to process everything. I had trusted her completely. I felt the betrayal deep in my bones, and I couldn't shake the feeling that my entire world was crumbling around me. I didn't know how to respond. Confrontation seemed inevitable, but I wanted to gather my thoughts first. The next morning, I couldn't focus on anything. I felt like a walking zombie, going through the motions of getting ready for work. I wanted to confront her, but how? I needed a plan. Should I wait for her to admit it? Should I just throw it in her face? I felt sick to my stomach at the thought of either approach, but I knew I had to address this head-on. As I sat at my desk at work, I replayed the moment over and over in my mind. I decided that I wouldn't let her lie to me. I would confront her with what I knew and demand the truth. This was a turning point in my life, and I could feel the weight of it pressing down on my chest. I spent the day feeling like a pressure cooker about to explode. I knew that this wouldn't end well. Someone was going to get hurt, and it was either going to be her or me. But I needed resolution, and I needed it fast. When Lisa got home that evening, I took a deep breath. I could feel my heart pounding as I prepared myself for the confrontation. I knew I had to be calm, but my emotions were all over the place. The last thing I wanted to do was create a scene, but this was my life we were talking about. "Lisa, we need to talk," I said as she walked through the door. She looked at me, her expression shifting from casual to apprehensive. "About what?" "You know exactly what." And just like that, the stage was set for the confrontation that would change everything. The moment hung in the air, thick with tension. Lisa's face paled slightly, and I could see the gears in her head turning as she tried to assess the situation. I wanted to scream at her, to demand answers, but I needed to stay composed. I had evidence now, and I wasn't going to let her twist the narrative. "I found your messages," I said, forcing the words out as steadily as I could manage. "You've been talking to Chris." Her eyes widened, and for a moment I saw genuine panic. "Jake, what are you talking about?" she stammered, trying to play innocent. The act was transparent, and I could feel my anger bubbling just beneath the surface. "I'm talking about the messages where you call him babe and talk about meeting up. Don't try to deny it." I took a step toward her, and her back hit the doorframe. I read everything. How could you do this? How could you betray me like this? She opened her mouth to respond, but the excuses came tumbling out in a jumbled mess. It's not what you think. We were just being friendly. I didn't mean anything by it. You know how close our families are. As the words spilled from her lips, I could hardly contain my disbelief. Friendly? Really? And you think that "can't wait to see you tonight, babe" is just friendly? I laughed bitterly, the desperation in my voice evident. What a joke, Lisa. This isn't a misunderstanding. You've been having an affair. Her defenses crumbled. I didn't want to hurt you, Jake. It just happened. Chris and we connected. It was a mistake, a moment of weakness. I felt like the ground had been pulled from under me. A moment of weakness. You call cheating on your husband a mistake? You've been lying to me, Lisa. I can't even trust you now. Saying those words hurt more than I could express. I had trusted her with everything, and she threw it all away. I know I messed up, she continued, her voice rising in pitch. But I love you. It doesn't mean anything. Love? I echoed incredulously. How can you even say that? You've shattered everything we built. You've betrayed our vows, Lisa. The fight drained from her, and she sank down onto the couch, her hands covering her face. I stood there, paralyzed by a mix of anger and heartbreak. I wanted to scream, to break things, to make her feel the pain she caused me, but part of me felt hollow, like I was watching a train wreck in slow motion. I can't believe you do this to me with my own cousin, I said, shaking my head in disbelief. What were you thinking? Did you ever think about how this would affect not just us but our entire family? She looked up at me, her eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry, I made a terrible mistake. It was just, I don't know, I didn't think it would go this far. Didn't think it would go this far, I repeated, incredulous. You let it go far enough to sleep with him. You thought I wouldn't find out. You just kept lying to my face. As I stood there, the weight of her betrayal pressed down on me. I could feel the anger simmering inside, but beneath it all was a wave of sadness that threatened to drown me. I loved her, and she had thrown that love away like it meant nothing. You don't get to say you love me now, Lisa. You lost that privilege the moment you decided to cheat, I said, my voice steadying. You've destroyed my trust, and I don't know if I can ever forgive you. She shook her head, her expression shifting from one of despair to desperation. What do you want me to do? I'll end things with Chris. I swear, just please don't leave me. I thought about my options. Trusting her again felt impossible. I wanted to believe in second chances, but could I live with the constant reminder of her infidelity? I don't know, Lisa. I need time to think, I replied finally. You've hurt me in a way I didn't think was possible, and I can't just flip a switch and forget. I turned away from her, my heart aching as I walked toward the door. I wasn't ready to make a decision, but I knew one thing for certain: this was not over. I felt a wave of determination wash over me, a desire for revenge that I hadn't anticipated. So many people in our lives were tied to this, and I wasn't going to let Lisa walk away unscathed. As I stepped out, I felt a surge of clarity. This wasn't just about my marriage. It was about my pride, my dignity, and the family that had been dragged into this mess. I couldn't sit back and let her get away with this. She had to face the consequences, not just from me, but from everyone who loved her and believed in our relationship. I would make sure of it. The decision to execute my plan for revenge was both empowering and terrifying. I felt like a man on a mission, fueled by a mixture of hurt and indignation. I could barely concentrate at work the next few days. My mind was racing, plotting how I would ensure that Lisa faced the consequences of her actions. My first step was to talk to my cousin, Chris. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I wanted him to understand the gravity of what he had done. I reached out to him under the pretense of needing to catch up. I carefully crafted my text, keeping it casual, but I was seething inside. Hey Chris, it's been a while. Want to grab a beer this weekend? To my surprise, he replied almost immediately. Sure, man, I'd love to catch up. Let's do it. As the weekend approached, I felt a mix of anticipation and apprehension. I knew this discussion would change everything, but I was ready. I chose a bar that was a bit out of the way, a place where we could talk without interruptions. When I arrived, Chris was already there, nursing a beer. He greeted me with a smile, completely unaware of the storm that was about to hit. We made small talk for a while, catching up on life and work. I watched him laugh and joke, a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing in my heart. Finally, I decided it was time to address the elephant in the room. So Chris, I've been meaning to ask you about something, I said, leaning in slightly, trying to maintain my composure. What's up? He replied, tilting his head slightly, a hint of curiosity in his eyes. About Lisa, I started, feeling the weight of the words as they hung in the air. I know about the messages. I know what you've been doing behind my back. His expression shifted instantly from amusement to shock. What are you talking about? Don't play dumb with me, Chris. I read the messages. You think I wouldn't find out? I leaned back, watching his reaction closely. He opened his mouth, then closed it again, clearly flustered. Jake, look, I never meant for it to happen. It just happened, huh? I interrupted, my voice rising. You didn't think about how this would hurt me. You didn't think about how it would affect our families. You have no idea what you've done. I swear I didn't mean to hurt you, he stammered, his expression turning to one of guilt. It was a mistake, man. We were just having fun. Fun, I echoed, incredulous. You think cheating with my wife is fun? This isn't a game, Chris. You've betrayed me, and I'm not going to let you off the hook that easily. He shifted uncomfortably in his seat. What do you want me to say? I messed up. I'll talk to Lisa and end things, I promise. That's not enough, I said coldly. You have to face the consequences of your actions. You think you can just walk away from this? Okay, I'll do whatever you want, he said, clearly panicking. I could see the fear in his eyes, and I felt a strange sense of satisfaction. But there was still more I needed to do. I wanted to make sure that everyone knew the truth, not just my cousin. I decided right then and there that it was time to tell our family. Later that night, I called a family gathering. I needed to do this in person to see the shock and disbelief in their eyes. I arranged for everyone to come over for dinner, telling them it was a casual get-together. My heart raced as I prepared. This was going to be explosive. On the day of the gathering, I made sure everything was perfect. Lisa had no idea what was coming. As guests arrived, I tried to keep my composure, but inside I was a bundle of nerves. The kitchen was bustling with the smell of homemade food. Laughter filled the air, and for a moment I let myself pretend that everything was normal. But when everyone was seated around the dining table, I knew it was time to drop the bomb. I cleared my throat and the chatter quieted down. Thank you all for coming tonight. There's something important I need to share with you. Lisa shot me a confused glance, her brow furrowing in concern. What's going on? Lisa, I said, my voice steady. I want you to know that you have a choice here. You can either confess to everyone what you've done, or I will do it for you. Her face turned pale and she shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Jake, please don't do this, she whispered, desperation creeping into her voice. I ignored her plea. I discovered that Lisa has been cheating on me with my cousin, Chris. The words hung in the air like a thick fog. Silence engulfed the room. Eyes widened, mouths dropped open, and disbelief washed over everyone's faces. What? My sister gasped, staring at Lisa as if she were a stranger. My parents looked at each other, their expressions a mixture of shock and heartache. Is this true? My mother finally asked. Her voice barely above a whisper. Lisa opened her mouth, but no words came out. She looked around the table, and in that moment I could see her mask slipping. She realized she had nowhere to hide. Yes, it's true, she finally said, her voice trembling. But it meant nothing. I made a mistake. The fallout was immediate. My family erupted in a flurry of outrage and disappointment. Lisa's pleas fell on deaf ears as they processed her betrayal. I felt a dark satisfaction wash over me, knowing that the truth was out and she was facing the consequences of her actions. As the evening progressed, I watched the chaos unfold with a bittersweet sense of resolution. I had lost so much, but I also felt a weight lifted off my shoulders. I wouldn't let Lisa's betrayal define me. I was taking control of my narrative, and it was going to be a long road ahead, but I was ready for whatever came next. The aftermath of that dinner was a whirlwind. My family was in shock, and the air was thick with tension. Lisa tried to defend herself, but her words fell flat against the weight of the truth. My parents were furious, especially my father, who had always treated Lisa like one of his own. The disappointment in his eyes cut deeper than any words could express. Why would you do something like this? My father asked, his voice filled with hurt. You know how much we cared for you, Lisa. I didn't mean for it to happen, she cried, tears streaming down her face. It was just a fling. I love Jake. Love doesn't work like that, my mother interjected, her tone stern. You've broken trust, and that's not something that can be easily repaired. I could feel the anger bubbling inside me again. Lisa was trying to paint herself as the victim, but I wasn't buying it. I had a front row seat to her manipulation, and no amount of tears could take away the sting of her betrayal. I need to think about everything, I announced, standing up from the table. I could feel my heart racing, the adrenaline pulsing through my veins. I can't do this right now. As I walked away from the chaos, I could hear whispers behind me, the shock still evident in their voices. I stepped outside onto the porch, taking a deep breath of the cool evening air. The sky was dimming and the stars were starting to peek through the darkness. I leaned against the railing, trying to gather my thoughts. The plan I had set in motion was working, but the emotional toll was heavy. I felt like I was in a storm, and each wave of sadness crashed over me, pulling me further under. I had once loved this woman, and now I was forced to confront the reality that I barely recognized her anymore. She had betrayed me not only with my cousin, but also with the trust and love we had built together. I heard footsteps behind me and turned to see my sister, Emily, approaching. "Hey, can I talk to you for a second?" she asked gently. "Sure," I replied, trying to maintain an air of calmness. "I'm really sorry about all this, Jake. You didn't deserve it," she said, her voice sincere. "Thanks, Em. I appreciate it," I replied, though I felt a twinge of anger. I didn't want pity, I wanted understanding. "I know you're hurting, and it's okay to feel angry. Just remember you have family here who loves you no matter what," she said, placing a hand on my shoulder. "I know, I just didn't think it would end like this," I admitted. "It's like everything I thought I knew about Lisa has been turned upside down. You deserve better than this, Jake. You've worked hard to build your life, and you shouldn't have to deal with this kind of betrayal," she said firmly. Her words resonated with me. I realized that I wasn't just mourning the loss of my marriage, I was reclaiming my identity. I had spent years investing in someone who had ultimately chosen to hurt me. I had to focus on rebuilding my life, even if it felt impossible right now. "Thanks, Em. I'll figure this out. I just need some time," I said, grateful for her support. After that, I went back inside, the atmosphere still heavy with tension. I could see Lisa sitting on the couch with her head buried in her hands, and my heart ached for the person I used to know. But I had to remind myself of the betrayal, the lies, and the pain she caused. I couldn't let my sympathy for her blind me to the reality of the situation. "I think it's best if you stay somewhere else for a while," I said to Lisa, my voice steady. "I need space to think about everything." Her head jerked up and her eyes widened in shock. "Jake, please, I'm sorry. I'll do anything to make it right. Right now, I don't even know if I want to fix this," I replied, trying to keep my emotions in check. "I need time to process what you've done." She opened her mouth to argue, but I cut her off. "I'll give you a few days to figure things out. Just know that I can't be around you right now." With that, I turned away, leaving her in the living room, a mixture of regret, anger, and sadness swirling within me. I felt like I'd been struck by lightning, electrified and overwhelmed. The reality of our situation was sinking in, and I knew the road ahead would be rocky. Over the next few days, I focused on taking care of myself. I reached out to close friends for support and spent time with family. I found solace in their company, and they reminded me that I wasn't alone in this. I began to realize that while I had lost a significant part of my life, I still had the love and support of those around me. But I couldn't shake the anger and betrayal I felt, not just from Lisa but from Chris too. I knew I had to confront him again, this time not just to express my anger but to fully understand his perspective. I wanted to hear him out while also letting him know that his actions had consequences. I reached out to Chris, asking him to meet me again, this time at a different bar. It was time to face the man who had played a direct role in my heartbreak. The day of my meeting with Chris felt like an eternity. I spent the morning wrestling with a mix of emotions, anger, betrayal, and a desire for clarity. I wasn't sure what I wanted to achieve from this confrontation, but I knew I had to face him and hold him accountable for what he had done. When I arrived at the bar, I felt a strange sense of purpose wash over me. I spotted Chris sitting at the bar nursing a drink. He looked up as I approached, a mix of apprehension and guilt flashing across his face. I could tell he had been dreading this meeting as much as I had. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my tone steady. "Hey, Jake," he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. I pulled up a stool next to him, the tension palpable between us. There was an uncomfortable silence, and I could feel my heart racing as I prepared for what I wanted to say. "Listen, Chris," I began, looking him straight in the eye. "I'm not here to fight. I just want to understand how this happened. You're my cousin, and I thought we had each other's backs." He nodded slowly, his expression somber. "I know, man, I messed up. I'm really sorry for what I did." "Sorry doesn't cut it," I shot back, my voice rising slightly. "You had to know this would hurt me, that it would hurt our whole family. Did you ever think about that?" He looked down at his drink, shame washing over his features. "Honestly, I didn't think it would go that far. I was just having fun, and it spiraled out of control. I didn't think about the consequences. I was stupid." "Stupid doesn't even begin to cover it," I said, feeling a surge of anger. "You took advantage of my trust, and now everything is ruined. You don't get to just brush this off as a mistake." "Jake, I know I can't take it back," he said, desperation creeping into his voice. "I'll talk to Lisa and I'll end things, I swear. I never wanted to hurt you." "Ending things isn't enough," I replied sharply. "You need to understand the damage you've caused, not just to me but to everyone who cared about Lisa. You need to face your consequences as well." "Look, I get it, I messed up. But I never meant to hurt you," he said, frustration creeping into his voice. "I'll apologize to everyone. I'll do whatever it takes to make this right." "Apologies don't mean much at this point," I countered. "You need to understand that your actions have real-life consequences. You've put not just our family relationships at risk, but my entire future. I trusted you." He looked up, his eyes pleading. "I'm sorry, Jake. I'll fix this. I'll talk to Lisa and I'll tell her it's over." I could see a hint of sincerity in his eyes, but I also felt the anger boiling inside me. "It's not just about ending things with her. You need to acknowledge what you did. You need to be held accountable." "I know," he said, his voice low. "I'll face whatever consequences you think I should. I don't want to lose my family over this." "Too late," I said, shaking my head. "You've already jeopardized that. You need to earn back the trust you've broken, and it's going to take more than just saying sorry." Chris fell silent, and I could see the weight of realization settling in. "What do you want me to do?" he finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "First, you need to tell everyone what happened. Don't sugarcoat it. You owe it to them to be honest about what you did," I said firmly. "And then I want you to check in with me regularly. I want to see you making an effort, not just to apologize, but to be better. If you're not willing to do that, then I don't want anything to do with you." He nodded slowly, his expression serious. "Okay, I'll do it. I'll make it right." As I left the bar, I felt a strange mix of emotions. I was still angry, and I wasn't sure if Chris could ever earn back my trust, but I also felt a sense of relief. I had confronted him, and I had taken control of the narrative. I was done being the victim in this situation. The next few days were a blur. I laid low, spending time with family and friends who supported me. I didn't reach out to Lisa. I needed space to process everything. I understood that the road ahead would be long and difficult, but I was starting to feel a sense of clarity. One evening, as I sat on my couch, I received a text from Lisa. It was simple yet haunting. "Can we talk?" I stared at my phone, my heart racing. I had no idea what to say. I didn't want to rehash everything that had happened, but part of me felt a pang of curiosity about what she wanted. After a moment of hesitation, I replied, "Fine. We can talk, but I'm not making any promises." She responded quickly, asking if we could meet at the park near our house. I agreed, and a sense of dread washed over me. I knew this conversation could change everything, or it could be the final nail in the coffin of our relationship. As I drove to the park, I felt a mixture of anxiety and determination. I needed answers, but I also needed to protect myself. This was my chance to hear her out, but I wouldn't let her manipulate me again. When I arrived, I saw her sitting on a bench, her eyes downcast. I took a deep breath and walked over, ready to face the woman who had hurt me more than I ever thought possible. "Jake," she said softly as I approached, and for a moment I could see the vulnerability in her eyes. "Let's talk," I replied, steeling myself for whatever was to come next. As I sat down on the bench, Next to Lisa, I felt a wave of emotions wash over me, anger, sadness, and a flicker of hope that we might find some resolution. Her presence, once so familiar and comforting, now felt like a reminder of everything that had gone wrong. "Thanks for meeting me," she began, her voice trembling slightly. "I know this is difficult. Difficult doesn't even begin to cover it, Lisa," I replied, my voice steady but firm. "You've shattered my trust, and I'm still trying to piece together how we got here." "I know," she said, looking down at her hands. "I've had a lot of time to think, and I realize how deeply I've hurt you. I'm truly sorry for what I did. It was selfish, reckless, and I know that now." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her words but also the anger that still simmered inside me. "You've said that before, Lisa, but apologies without action mean nothing to me. I need to know if you really understand the damage you've caused." "I do," she replied, her eyes brimming with tears. "I thought I could handle everything that I could have. My cake and eat it too, but I was wrong. I had everything with you and I threw it away for a few moments of excitement." Her honesty was refreshing, but it didn't erase the pain. "What makes you think I can trust you again? You've betrayed me, and now I have to rebuild everything from the ground up." "I don't expect you to forgive me right away," she said earnestly. "I'm willing to do whatever it takes to show you I can change. I'll go to counseling. I'll reach out to our families to explain my actions. I'll do anything, Jake, I just can't lose you." I paused, weighing her words carefully. Part of me wanted to believe her, after all, we had shared so much together, but the other part of me screamed to remember the betrayal and the hurt. "What about Chris? Are you really done with him?" "Yes," she said, her voice filled with conviction. "I've ended it. I told him that it was over and I can't be with someone who can hurt you like that. I promise I won't go back to him. I've made my choice and it's—" Words are easy, Lisa. Actions speak louder," I replied, crossing my arms. "You need to show me that you mean it. I can't keep living with the shadow of this betrayal hanging over us." "I understand," she said, her voice growing stronger. "I want to earn back your trust, but I know it's going to take time. I'm willing to be patient. I'll prove to you that I can be the wife you deserve." As I listened to her, I could see the sincerity in her eyes, but the fear of being hurt again loomed over me. "I need to think about this, Lisa. I can't promise you anything right now. We need to take this slowly." "I'll respect that," she said, wiping away a tear. "I just hope you'll give me the chance to show you I can change." We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of our conversation settling between us. I felt torn. Part of me longed to believe her, to give our relationship another shot, while the other part urged caution. Trust was not something that could be rebuilt overnight, and I had to be careful not to rush into a decision that could lead to more heartache. "I want to work on this," I finally said, my voice low. "But it's going to take time, and you need to understand that. It's not just about getting back together, it's about healing." "I understand," she replied, her expression softening. "I'll do everything I can to make this right, Jake. I can't change the past, but I want a future with you." As we talked further, I began to see glimpses of the woman I had fallen in love with, the one who had laughed with me, shared dreams, and built a life together. But I also knew that it would be a long road to recovery. Healing takes time, and we were both going to need to put in the work. Ultimately, I walked away from that meeting with a sense of cautious hope. I wasn't ready to forgive or forget, but I was open to the possibility of rebuilding. I realized that moving forward didn't mean I had to erase the pain. It meant I would learn from it and grow stronger. As I drove home, I reflected on everything that happened. I had faced betrayal, but I also found a renewed sense of self. I had taken control of my narrative, confronted the people involved, and laid bare the truth. In the end, I learned that while love can be incredibly powerful, it can also be fragile. Relationships require constant effort from both parties, and trust can be rebuilt, but it takes time, commitment, and honesty. I didn't know what the future held for Lisa and me, but I was willing to explore it, one step at a time. I wasn't just a victim of her betrayal. I was a survivor, and I was ready to take charge of my life again. That's the thing about heartbreak. It's painful, but it can also lead to growth, and sometimes that's the most important lesson of all.